Hey guys, quick note before we start this episode. We had a few issues with the audio track on this one, so please bear with us and we hope you enjoy. Welcome back to A Quick Brew.
A Quick Brew. Welcome back, David. Good to see you. Cheers.
Cheers.
What have you gone with?
So I've gone with product placement, Harry Brompton's peached iced tea.
Very nice indeed.
Refreshing.
Standard straight black coffee.
Nice. And did I notice the little Foxy mug has made a return?
Yeah, the Foxy mug's made zero fox given as I'm drinking my coffee.
As always, it's a way of life. it's a way of life at this point, isn't it?
Not just a teacup, it's a way of life.
It is. So peach iced tea, we're still on the tea tips. That's good. Quick brew.
Yeah.
One thing I like, it's delicious. One thing I don't like is this bloody thing.
They infuriate me. Why? I don't understand why.
I get it. I don't want sea turtles eating bottle tops or anything like that. I do get it, but
I've never been a litter bug anyway.
No. No.
But do people just randomly launch bottle lids into the ocean? Or is that I can never remember once ever doing that.
So, but this one was particularly, as you can see, I've literally had to remove the whole thing. It was so, I was twisting it around. It wasn't detaching. I was like, come on. And so I literally just took the whole thing off the bottle top. I heard, and I'd love someone who listens to this to fact check me on this, because I don't know if this is true. If it's true, it's a disaster. I heard that when these things go to a recycling plant, they actually separate the lids anyway. So, you know, obviously they're attached.
It's like the whole McDonald's straw thing when they turned it into cardboard. So if you're having a milkshake, I call them the two sucks. You've got two sucks before your straw's lost all of its integrity and its structural integrity, and then you end up having to take the lid off. And I don't remember many McDonald's being next to beaches or seas, or anybody that previously had had a McDonald's cup, was drinking a Coke, and then just decided, I don't want that straw, and launch that into the ocean. I just don't.
No,
but it's a whole different episode.
Have we got distracted?
Yeah, we've completely got distracted. We've got another guest that's waiting as we're chatting crap about cups and bottles.
We do. I mean, that's a matter of opinion. I mean, chatting crap, I don't know. I thought it was insightful. But we do have another guest who will be, I'm sure, insightful. So without further ado, because we've already burnt up a couple of minutes, let's welcome her on to centre stage. Our guest today is Kat Edwards.
They just listened. They're so good, your audience.
It's unbelievable.
I know.
They're so reactive. Just in the palm of our hands.
Instantaneous from the queue.
Amazing.
I'm good.
How are you?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you for inviting me on. I'm excited for this podcast.
Likewise, really looking forward to this. And one thing that I like about the pod, other than the fact that it's awesome, someone said that to me once, is I love the variety of our guests. So I listen to quite a lot of podcasts, and, you know, whilst I love vertical format, i.e. we are a recruitment podcast, we're only going to talk about recruitment, and there's value there. I actually love it that we have a real variety of guests. And today, Kat, I think you bring something, a plethora, a varied and dynamic plethora of guests. So
eclectic.
Oh,
that's an eclectic mix.
Word of the day? Eclectic?
No, eclectic could be word of the day.
Ding! Need that for the soundboard still. Still working on that one for the soundboard. But Kat, if you can please then, to help our audience understand who you are, what you do, and how you make your clients' lives better.
Absolutely. So as you've already introduced me, I'll just go in to say I'm Kat Edwards and I run One Finance. One Finance, we are a finance brokerage. So we work with small and medium businesses to source some funding. So we enable them to navigate through the lending market and get the right product for their business.
Awesome. I've made use of commercial financing and funding over, through my career of owning various companies, invoice financing, factoring. I've made use of commercial debt. So yeah, it's an area familiar to me. What is your core product? You know, what is it that you do most of? Is it around that sort of invoice factoring, or is it short-term business loans?
So we do a bit of a mix of everything. However, we do have the bulk of what we do is unsecured business loans, whether or not that's short term, long term. But we are seeing an increase in invoice finance factoring becoming sort of quite up there now. So it's more and more popular, more and more needed as well.
Why do you think that is?
So there's a few reasons, I reckon. So cash flow, it's cash is king, isn't it? So a lot of businesses, yeah,
So they
apparently.
say.
So a lot of businesses, they are struggling to manage their cash flow, whether or not it be sporadic payments coming in, whether or not it be waiting on invoices to be paid that are just dragging on. That seems to be something that we're seeing time and time and time again. Even today, I've had someone inquire they owed a significant amount of money. Just it didn't meet their invoice payments times, or it didn't have the right name on the invoice, or whatever the reason may be. But it's affecting their cash flow. And at the end of the day, that's a business and a business owner that still needs to make ends meet and pay everyone else. So it has such an impact.
We see the effects of that, and it's before when I had owned an entertainment business. You always tend to find that it's the bigger clients as well that have these ridiculously
Absolutely.
long payment terms. Like, for example, we used to do a lot of work with Born Leisure and provide bands and artists for Havens, Butlins, and whichever. But they used to be able to give you a good chunk of work. So I think in one of the height of our seasons, they took 15 bands from us that were gigging
Wow.
pretty much every weekend from the beginning of April right up until November, December time. And when you're having to pay, where bands are expecting to be paid at the end of each month on 30-day payment terms, and you're
Yeah.
waiting 90 days for a company like Born Leisure to actually pay you your first set of invoices that you've sent across, that's where cash flow can become a massive
Absolutely.
problem. I think there was one particular month where we'd over the 2 months, forked out $500,000 before actually getting
Wow.
anything back.
It's a killer.
It can be really
Absolutely.
difficult.
And you see it a lot in the construction trade. Every industry's got the same challenges, but I suppose in different ways. But we work with a lot of businesses in the construction trades, and they're notorious for having this cash flow concern challenge ongoing. So yeah, it's hard.
Do people insure their ledger in construction, Kat? Because I know various people that have worked in construction, scaffolding and similar trades, and I think there is an acceptance that some of those invoices just aren't going to get paid. And it's not because they can't, it's that they just don't want to play the game, and they're going to make it difficult. Do your clients insure their ledgers?
Some of them do, yes. It depends on what type of facility they're going for and the industry and the types of sizes of those facilities as well. But yeah, there's a possibility for them to do that.
What's the most aggressive payment terms you've seen? Obviously, James has referenced 90 days there, which is pretty toppy. The biggest one I saw.
I've seen an even worse one recently, working where we are currently, where we were on 60-day payment terms. We'd already provided the work, and it was a good chunk of work as well. A new finance director had come in and decided he was going to change it to 120 days.
So 120 is the biggest I've seen. Can you beat that? Can you top trump us on that one, Kat?
So it was a client in partnership or working with NHS, and theirs was, it's hard to say because it was 6 months basically, because they get paid every 6 months. The way that their invoices fell, the way that they completed the certain work that they did for them from the start, from day one for doing the work to them actually getting the money, it can take 6 months. And for a small, medium business, that is like, you just think, how many payrolls have they got until they're getting that money in?
I would love to lobby it. I want to speak to an MP about this.
Well, wasn't there a rule meant to be coming in? I'm sure there was talk of this, where it was basically that it was going to eradicate the 90-day payment terms and people had to pay within a month. Whatever happened with that? I'm sure. I'm not dreaming that up, am I?
No, you're not. No, I've heard of it, and I was part of various discussions. Again, in a past life, I used to have a little bit more influence, maybe, and I met with MPs. I met in Parliament and all sorts, and yeah, one of the things that we would regularly discuss was payment terms and the unfair nature that you can have an enterprise level, multi-billion pound turnover company that have cash reserves but simply don't choose to share it with suppliers that have delivered what a great service is. And if they are small to mid-size and they are potentially living invoice to invoice, then to hold off for 2, 3, up to 6 months seems unbelievably unfair.
The problem is, for me, was, that they had the power, despite how popular that you were. Like, for example, I'll go back to the Born Leisure example. The band I was in, Scream, you're only meant to really get a 2-year run with Havens. We were really popular. We ended up doing 9 years on the Haven circuit.
Wow.
And, it got to stages where we were saying, well, we just won't perform. But the answer back was, all right,
we'll
cancel
else
all
in.
your acts.
I've seen a similar attitude many years ago discussing business with Apple, and their attitude for any discussion around commercials was, if you don't want to do it, mate, I'm sure someone else will.
That's what I see a lot as well with clients. And they're scared to speak up. They're scared to question it or chase or, try and negotiate payment terms because they know full well they'll just turn around and say, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, then we've got 100 other people that would be willing to do it on those terms. So thanks, but see ya. And it's not worth it. It's their business. That's their main source. That's their main contract, potentially.
Yeah.
So they don't want to interrupt that over, trying to find a solution with financing it.
The frustrating thing as well is that these businesses have often been paid. So, for example, going back to the Born Leisure example, every person that we were performing to in one of those venues, they're not paying for their holiday in 3 months' time.
Exactly.
They've already paid for it. They've had to pay for that before they go through the doors of the park. So a lot of the time that they've often received the money for that for the gig we're about to put on, and we're having to wait 90 days for the payment.
I like that, James, because at first you said most people get a 2-year deal. I wondered if you were going to go the other way and say we lasted 10 minutes and we're asked not to come back. But 9 years, mate, that's an absolute residency.
Well, in the end, the decision was made to stop doing it purely because they kept trying to reduce the fees every year. We started out at £1,200 a gig, Friday, Saturday. You'd always pick up like a local pub, working men's club or venue for the Sunday or the Thursday, just to add some extra funds into the pot. But then the year after, despite the quality of what you've made put on, it was, can you do it for 1,000? Then it was, can you do it for 950? Then can you do it for 900? Can you do it for? And in the end, when they said, can you do it for 725? And they removed a lot of the benefits as well from it. So, for example, you would always get given a caravan to stay in because you're often. So, say we're in Weymouth, the 2 parks in Weymouth, Friday and Saturday night. They then removed that. They said, you're going to have to find your own hotel. So when you're taking into consideration fuel, hotel for 4 lads, and the fees that they're reduced to, it just wasn't financially viable to do it. Lumina proudly sponsors the Quick Brew podcast. Lumina is your AI conversation coach, helping leaders manage difficult conversations successfully. Practice in a safe environment without fear of judgment. If you want to hear more information about Lumina and practicing conversations that count, go to wellityglobal.com/meet-Lumina and use offer code BREW10.
So Kat, how did you get into finance and specifically owning a company in this space? It's a pretty competitive space, isn't it?
It is a competitive space. Yeah. So I've been doing this for, I'd say, for about 10 years now. Initially, I was working in insurance, and then I fancied a change and I thought I'd go with another insurance company. So I've gone through the application and then I've turned up and they're not an insurance company. They had the wrong keyword on their advert. So at the time I was 21, I think. And I thought, let's see what this is all about. Why not? So I stayed there probably for about 6 years, I think it was. And then went on my own and we set up One Finance, me and my husband. So 4 years last month. January. The year's already gone quick.
So were you a pandemic startup?
I suppose it depends at what point of the pandemic, but 2022.
It was in that time, wasn't it?
So I was pregnant at the time when we set up, and then my son was born in the...
You chose a really easy time then.
Yeah.
Pandemic, pregnancy.
Yeah, why not?
Let's start a business.
Chuck a few obstacles in the way. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you were pregnant during the startup, or you had baby?
No, so I was pregnant during the startup. So we started up in January, and then I had my son in April.
Yeah.
And then I've gone on to have 2 more. So we've got 3 kids. 4 years later, we've got a 4-year-old business and 3 kids, 3 and under. Crazy.
How?
What?
I mean,
beat me to it, James.
I mean, that testament to you. I mean, women do have it a lot harder than men. We all know this. And how did you manage to be able to build, develop, run a business while having 3 children as well?
It's weird to say, but the more chaos and the more you're thrown into, the more you adapt to it. Because speaking with people that have perhaps got 1 kid, or they've got no children and they've got a business and they're going through all their challenges, which are, things that everyone goes through, it's just becomes so overwhelming. And I think you learn to adapt and make quicker decisions and be more efficient with your time, because you've got no choice. You've got so many things and people and projects that are pulling your attention.
That's quite interesting. And actually, kids put things into context,
They do.
don't they? What might seem like a bad day in the office or things that are really tough at work, if you're raising a family, that's a real challenge.
Yeah.
You've got real issues and real consequence. And I think that maybe that context does help in that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you're saying that with having the children as well, that's helped within the bit. Because I mean, one of the things that we'll speak about with companies, so when we're coming to do like performance training and things like that, one of the things that always kills progress is procrastination. Those people that do dwell on a decision or try to come up with new ideas, or they don't think it's quite right. And they always say about like an artist never fully finishing a painting. There's got to be a point where you've got to say it's done and make a decision. So do you think that obviously within developing of the business, the fact that you did have to make those decisions more quickly and manage your time better has helped?
Yeah, so I come across a saying a few years ago where it's done is better than perfect. And I think of that with everything I do, whether or not it is something that's tidying up the kids' room or doing something in the business, anything that's might seem minor. And I think, I'm not going to have enough time to do that because, I'm not going to get it perfect. And you just think, right, 10 minutes, done. Done is better than perfect. It's ticked off the list. You can go back and tweak things later.
We apply the same ethos to this podcast, Kat. I know you,
no, not
I know
at
you
all.
wouldn't believe it.
It's perfect.
But truly done is better than perfect. Just quickly then, because we usually put these two together at the end of an episode, but if we can just quickly break away from that and take your book recommendation, because the Quick Brew bookcase is becoming my single source of inspiration for business, life advice.
Are we past the case yet?
James,
we've got to be getting close.
You can get a big bookcase, mate. I think we're still on a case. I think we have to keep it as a case. It's a virtual case anyway. I mean, this thing, was it in Bruce Almighty where he's got that filing cabinet that comes out? It's like that. For now, it's a case, unless we come up with something better. But Quick Brew bookcase. Have you got a title you can add, Kat?
So I recently reached out on LinkedIn actually to ask for some book recommendations, because I was going through this phase probably around 6 weeks ago where I just thought I really want to get stuck into something, whether or not it's the book, if it's a series, anything that's just gives you a bit of motivation. And someone kindly suggested a book by Bob Proctor called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. It's an audio book. You can look it on YouTube. I'm still working my way through it, but so far it's brilliant.
And that's a new title for us. I haven't heard of the book either. And that's what I specifically love about this feature. I'm not the biggest reader in the world, and maybe audiobooks are better for me than, paper based books. However, there's so much noise. I love hearing it from people that have actually read or are consuming something and really enjoying it. So that's a top shout. And you apply it in business as well as your life away from business.
Yeah, everything down to your health. apply these sort of things to, because you think if you've not got your health, you've got nothing, basically, have you? And health is something that people often overlook. But if you've got your health, you've got your family, they're all healthy, they're all got a roof over their head. You've got a business that's generating enough money for you to live your life how you want it to be lived, then, you're smashing it. And I think elements of this book really help you sort of touch upon that.
Awesome recommendation. And can I ask, Kat, because I see you as being quite active on LinkedIn, and if you've listened to the pod, which I know you will have done every episode from start to now, I see you as active on LinkedIn. James and I talk about it quite regularly on the pod. How much do you use LinkedIn to engage your prospects and your target clients? And have you actually found commercial benefit from engaging in the platform and creating the content that you do?
I wouldn't say that I've generated all of the money from our business through LinkedIn, because that's not the case. But I think it is more about having that brand awareness and having somewhere where people can check you out. If they've put an inquiry through, they might have put an inquiry through our website, they might have come across us, or it might have come through an introducer or something like that. And then they can go onto LinkedIn and see that we're a credible business. We've been on there for many years. We're active. They can see the directors, and, it's all out there for everyone to see. And I think that gives people that confidence.
And buy into the personal brand.
So I think that is a real buzzword, isn't it? Yeah. Personal branding. But I think there's something to it.
I don't think it is a buzzword. Whenever I've spoken to the sales team that I've run, or businesses that I've spoken to in helping in consultancy, when everybody says about my USP is this, my USP, your USP is you. Within sales, as long as anybody shall live, people buy from people, and you're not going to be for everyone. And if people can buy into that personal brand, if people like you, they will buy from you. And that, to me, is the thing you should focus on most when coming into business and coming into sales.
So are you saying that not everyone is for you, James? Because I don't think you've ever acknowledged. What's that? Have you broken? You've had too much of that black coffee. You're saying you're not everyone's cup of tea at this point.
Not everyone's cup of tea.
I don't believe that.
Too loud at times, too.
Well, you heard it here first, but it is a surprise, a bit of a turn up for the books. But no, personal brand is key. And these days, if you receive an inquiry, do you go to a website or do you go straight to LinkedIn, Kat?
If I've received an inquiry from a client, do you mean?
Yeah. Do you check them out on LinkedIn first, or do you jump onto their website?
Depending on what type of business they are. At some point, I will look at them on LinkedIn because I'd like to connect with them, for them to see my content, for me to see their content, understand more about each other's business. And also, I believe that it just gives them, if they've put an inquiry through and they might not necessarily have come directly through to our website, they might not know who One Finance is and if we're credible. And I just want to give them that opportunity to see us, connect with us on there, see the business page, see myself, see Dow, and just have that visibility and give them that confidence of who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do, James? You jump on LinkedIn straight away, or do you look at a website?
Yeah, I'll always check some down on LinkedIn. I use if I'm coming to a particular prospect for a meeting, because obviously I'm always a believer in finding out the pain points. When you go back to the scenes like in The Wolf of Wall Street, for example, where it says, "Sell me this pen. Have you got a pen?" There's got to be a need for your services for there to be any chance of you converting a sale. So we'll look at somebody on LinkedIn. The most powerful thing I've found to do when prospecting recently is the old school sales, David. You've got somebody that's inquired. You're about to set yourself up for the meeting. You'll scout them on LinkedIn. You'll scout over the website. You'll probably spend a good fair few hours, maybe sometimes even weeks, prospecting the prospective client and finding out as much about them as you can. Like when they say going into an interview, make sure you're finding out who's interviewing you, making sure you know details about the company, etc. So you used to find all of these sources and look and search everywhere on the web. Now, all I literally do is go on to ChatGPT, say having a meeting with so-and-so company. I never put any too personal details in because obviously I'm cautious of doing that. But can you tell me any wellbeing initiatives they're currently doing? Can you tell me what kind of work they're doing for their people? Can you tell me about what any training programs and such they have, how many staff, etc., etc.? And the template that I've created, it essentially delivers me a report of everything that I need to know for that meeting within 10 seconds.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Scrape so much
very
data.
Clever.
Yeah.
It's a good approach.
Well, that's the thing. And then I can then go into the meeting and say, look, I know you're running this particular initiative for your mental health first aiders. I know you did this campaign last year. So they're impressed with the knowledge that you've got, but it also helps me in the solutions that I'm going to suggest. So, if they're already doing a lot of work with mental health first aiders, it's probably something that I'm going to stay clear of because they've already been provided. But I might say, but we offer ongoing support for mental health first aiders, and maybe go down that direction.
So that's interesting.
Just going to say, I don't think it necessarily matters where you're getting the information from. It's about preparing, isn't it? There's no way on earth that you could go into there not having some sort of, research, whether or not it is on their website or using ChatGPT or whatever it may be. You've got to get some information to prepare yourself.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Kat, almost echoing that. I think it was almost, going back even 6 months ago, taboo to say, I use ChatGPT to help me prepare. However, if you're not using ChatGPT, you're going to the internet and you're sourcing the same material that ChatGPT will surface in 10 seconds versus 2 hours of you trawling through information you'd find.
Well,
so, you're still involved in the process.
It's going back to what Kat said at the beginning of the episode and ensuring you're maximizing your time. Why would I spend 3 hours personally finding that information when I'm going to find the same information, if not more, by using that platform and using the framework that I put together to find it.
So finance broking as an industry and talking AI tools, is that immune from the advent of the bots trying to take everyone's job? I mean, do you see that this is still something where the human, i.e. yourself and your husband and your team, can deliver service that people will value over just a couple of toggles on a website?
It's a bit of a different one, to be honest, because there is so much AI involved in broking at the moment, especially with lenders. You get a lot of fintech lenders, and there's so many out there that are absolutely smashing it with how they're doing things and what they're bringing to the market. One thing I would say is that it does lose that human element, which is, obvious. If you're going to use so much AI, then you're going to eradicate that human element to it, which a lot of people still absolutely love and they can't deal without, which is great because that's what we're all about, is that human touch to it. We use AI where we can to try and make things more efficient and make sure clients are getting the best products. But at the end of the day, with us at One Finance, it is a human sitting there going through manually, checking everything out, comparing different products, different rates, different criterias, and to try and get the best rate for them and speaking with them and delivering that feedback where need be.
And I think that's a perfect way to wrap up, for finishing on that point where, and we've stated it so many times, David, that human connection is never going to be replaced. And as Kat just explained, again, another example of where AIs, yes, use it to assist, but it's never going to replace. So to finish off, Kat, do you have a golden nugget for us?
So going back to that book, the Bob Proctor one, so I've taken so many different elements out of that, but something I've always truly believed in is positive thinking. And to some people, it might sound airy-fairy and a bit, out there, but I do truly think that law of attraction is a real thing. Positive thinking, having a positive mindset really can help you achieve so many different things. I think if you're positive things will happen. And that's in every aspect of your life, whether or not it be personal, business, and your families, anything like that. If you're just expressing a bit of gratitude every single day, no matter how small it can be, you'll really see the benefits of that.
Awesome.
Can you jump?
2 claps, 1 episode.
Oh, I keep forgetting they're there.
Likewise. And talking about the power of attraction, I think chocolate. And
exactly. It's instant.
It works. It just works. But no, in all seriousness, I get that. I love that. And I think that's a perfect way to sign off. So thank you, Kat. Really appreciate your time today. And obviously we'll link you in the show notes so people can find you.
Thank you very much.
Business.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So there we have it, James.
There we
Another
go.
awesome episode.
Awesome episode. Really insightful. Some great advice at the end as well. You know, I'm a firm believer in positive thinking, and there is a science behind it. You know, when you think about teams, and especially like within the well-being place, you know, if you've got some negative elements within that team that are constantly spreading negativity, that does cause a different energy within the team, and it does bring that team down.
We used to call them mood hoovers, James.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And but when you do have those positive elements and your team is positive, you are going to get better results. You know, so positive thinking, I've always believed in it.
We used to call them Daves and Jameses, those really positive guys that everyone loves.
Well, the Jameses.
The Daves and the Jameses. Can't let you have that all to yourself, mate. No mood hoovers here. But keep humans in the process. Again, as Kat said, things can be done online. But you know what? Sometimes it's just nice to talk to someone and probably end up with a better product, better service that actually fits your needs, because it's not shortcutted by AI that's just trying to get from A to B ASAP, I guess. So no, that's spot on. Enjoyed it. As always, guys, thank you for listening, and on to the next one.
On to the next. Cheers.